Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Build and Grow with Real Estate Show. My
That's
name
right.
is Judah Hoover. I am your one co-host, and this over here is my other co-host, Josh Weidman. It's so
Oh,
great. We're so used to mirror technology that when you actually deal with real TV technology, so that stuff isn't reversed. Those of us who are not used to this get thrown for a little bit of a loop. I'm an executive with a property management company, Slate House Group Property Management, and we also buy and sell real estate as executives of the company. We have some of our own holdings, and we're also a bunch of realtors. And now is a great, awesome time to list real estate.
right.
I just I've got so much going on right now in the real estate world. It's not even funny. A lot of people are reaching out to me saying, "Hey, Judah, I'm thinking about listing something. Hey, Judah, keep your eye out for this, that, or the other thing for me." And lots of really cool stuff happening and going on in the real estate world. You can call me 717-766-7994, 717-766-7994. I had an investor reach out to me just yesterday and just talked to me about their deal and walked through their deal with me. And they just needed to kind of verbalize some things, and we were able to just put some things together. And that was really beneficial. I've got calls today at 1 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, and I think at like 2 or 3 o'clock with other people looking to do the same thing. So if you want somebody to bounce ideas off of, if you want somebody who knows mortgages, real estate, property management, private money, and all those things, to just take a second peek at your deal and talk with you about real estate stuff, give me a call anytime. I'm willing to talk with you.
That's awesome. Judah, so my name's Josh Weidman. Just like you, Judah, I've been in real estate for quite some time. This is like 14 years in the business. And this morning I was talking to a potential borrower from Harrisburg, right? And she called me about a deal and she says, "Hey, look, I think I can get 235 for this thing, but let's use 200 as our exit price." And we're going through the deal and this. And I start pulling comps up and I said, "Listen, you're going to lose money if you buy this property. On a best case scenario, this house is worth $160,000. And
Wow.
best case scenario." Now, she's a very qualified borrower, had cash, had good credit. But the last thing that I want to see from one of my clients is for them to lose money.
Right.
It's not, and like having the expertise and understanding the business, like you and I have both seen this. Like, you're not going to take somebody out to go see a property that is going to be a loser. You're not going to, pitch somebody on selling their house at a price point where they're going to, either be below what they can sell it for, or present it
Sit on the
to.
market for too long. There's a
Yeah,
lot of people who they say, "Hey, I want to sell my house for $280,000." I'm like, "Look, it's. I mean, we can list it for 280. You're the boss. I'll do whatever you say.
right.
But just so you know, if we list it for 280, it's going to sit there."
Well, and
And so you have to be willing to kind of have those hard conversations with people
that's right.
and let people know, "Hey, just like I'm sure you did with that woman. Hey, lady, I'm interested because I would actually not lose money on this deal. When
Yeah.
you sell it, I'm going to be covered, but you're not going to make any money, and it's got to be a win-win situation for everybody."
Exactly. And at the end of the day, that's what we really want. I mean, we both have been in the real estate business for quite some time. We've got a lot of background. We've made a lot of stupid mistakes in our life, and like we're able to see some of the mistakes that other investors are walking into that might not have the same background or experience. And we want to help. So
Right.
look, I'm a hard money lender. We right outside of Hershey. We lend in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Northern Virginia, and DC. And so if you've got a project that you're looking to get funded, we are really, really simple to work with. I talked to a woman who's been in business this morning she's been in business for 20 years. Talked to me for the first time. She's only familiar with retail lending, right? She's a real estate agent. She's looking to flip her first house. And I took her through the process. She's like, "Wait a minute. You only need contact for you. Like, you might need my LLC docs. You need contact from my title company. You need a scope of work, and you need my insurance contact, and that's it." Yeah, that's it. So we're a direct lender.
Now,
We
you
work,
listed 5 or 6 things there, but for
right,
anybody who hasn't done a mortgage loan before, there's usually about 15 to 20 things. Well, I need your 2 most recent years of pay stubs, and I need your 2 most recent years of tax returns, and I need bank statements with all pages, and I need, I mean, it just, the list goes on and on and on, everything you need typically to close a loan.
That's exactly right. And so as a direct lender, we have a really simple process. Number one, if you contact me, I'm going to be able to underwrite the loan on the first day, give you a quote on, hey, this is what we can lend. This is the terms, this is the time frame, all that kind of stuff. You get me a little bit of paperwork back, really little bit of paperwork, and we're going to be able to fund within 24 hours. Now, title work's got to be done. Some other things have to be in place. But I mean, we've closed loans with this month,
Right.
and with 1 business day. So if you've got a property that you're looking to have funding on, whether you need the money in 2 or 3 weeks or you need it in 2 or 3 days, give me a ring, give me a call. You can shoot me an email. 717-213-8488. All right. So let's jump into some content here, Judah.
Yeah, great content.
Yeah, we've been talking about, well, let's take this off here. We've been talking about for the last 2 weeks, subject to. Right. Subject to is pretty attractive to a lot of people, but it's only one piece of the puzzle.
Right. I think that one of the things that shows how much interest there is out there in this topic is we had over 750 views on yesterday's show. So we really appreciate what's that?
That was Friday. Yesterday, I think we had 300 views.
Gotcha. So we've had some crazy views recently on the shows, talking about the things that we're looking at and things that we're talking about. We just really appreciate our listeners. And what we want you to do is yesterday and on Friday, Thursday, whatever, we were talking about subject to. Today, we're going to be jumping into kind of the other half of that, which is lease purchase. But if you have any questions about how subject to works in minutia or how a lease purchase works in minutia, ask them here in the comments or shoot them to us after the show, because we know that we get a lot of after the show viewers, people tune in when they have availability, and we want to answer and take all those questions. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. So today what we're talking about is rent to own. And sometimes it's called lease option. Sometimes it's called rent to own. You can go buy a house for cash and rent to own it. You can go buy a house with a mortgage and rent to own it. You can rent to own a property and then turn around and rent to own it. That's called a sandwich lease, where you don't actually own the property. It's best to disclose to all people involved there what's actually going on. Maybe you don't tell the tenant you don't technically own it. You refer to the person who you're rented to own from as your business partner, but you definitely tell your business partner who you're rented to own from that your intention is to rent to own. That's called a sandwich lease. What I've always done and what I've always loved doing is taking my subject twos, they're properties that I own, I have the deed. Ron LeGrand always says, guess the deed or get the door. You know what I mean? I either get the deed in my name or I'm walking out the door. I'm not interested. That's just how he does things. But I've also done sandwich leases. And what we're going to be talking about is it's a great way to dispose of those properties. And so let's jump into rent to own situations and why they're good.
Right. So there's 2 sides of this equation, right? You've got the seller, that's you,
right,
and then you have the tenant buyer,
right.
And there's different reasons why this is attractive to both sides. So why don't you run through the seller and I'll run through the buyer, the tenant buyer side.
So I think that one of the best things for the seller is you get what I call a non-refundable option consideration. Non-refundable option consideration, or NROC. I never call it a deposit. I never call it a security deposit. I never call it a down payment or anything like that. So, and as Steve says here, so essentially, Judah, you are the bank. Yes, one of the greatest things about this is you're making arbitrage and you're making money every month as the bank. You collect a non-refundable option consideration upfront, usually 2 to 5% of the purchase price of the property. So if you're doing a $200,000 home, if you're doing a $100,000 home, you want to target your non-refundable option consideration at roughly 2% to 5% of the value of the home. That's typically going to be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. One of my mentors and coaches in this business was a woman, believe it or not, by the name of Charlie France. I don't know how she got the nickname Charlie, but everyone just calls her Charlie. And Charlie always says, if you're broke, go buy a house. That's what you and I got to tell you, when I was in my early 20s and I was broke and didn't like my job, I was able to quit my job within 6 months because of doing subject twos and then rent to owns. And this right here is what did it for me, was that immediate large influx of cash. It's almost like a wholesale. You know what I mean? You get boom, a 5 to 10 to $15,000 check. Now you're also going to get rental income, and that's nice, that arbitrage on monthly income. That's good for long-term income. And then eventually you're going to sell the property and you're going to get another big chunk of cash. But when you set these up, you should be getting a $5,000 to $15,000 check every time you do it.
So I think this is an important note here that we are not digging into. Maybe we can dig into it a little bit more, but let's talk about the idea of the lease option, right? You've got two separate documents that are not referenced in each other at all. One is an option. It's an option agreement that just says, look, Judah, I own this property. You're interested in buying it, but you don't want to buy it right now. So we're going to agree that you're going to give me a chunk of change to get first right of refusal for that property at some future time and within a window of a year, 2 years, 3 years. The idea of an option is used a lot for builders, right?
Developers, yep.
That's right. So they'll look at the upcoming population growth and projections and things like that and say, okay, in 10 years, we're going to need, 50,000 acres to build a bunch of communities. And so they'll go out and find 50,000 acres. And Bob, the farmer down here, he's got this land and he's like, I was thinking about retiring and this guy wants to give me $100,000 and I get to keep my land, for the next couple years.
Yeah, here's how it works. Let's flesh this out a little bit. Let's say Josh is a farmer and I'm a developer and I want to buy his 100-acre farm. I go to Josh and I say, Josh, I want to buy the option to buy your farm. I want to buy the option to buy the farm. So I'll give you $100,000 towards the eventual purchase price of $10 million for your farm.
Yep.
And I can buy it anytime I want to in the next 2 years. If 2 years comes and goes and I still haven't bought your farm, then you just get to keep the $100,000 I gave you. And maybe Josh says, well, not 2 years, 5 years, or maybe only a year and a half, or maybe not 10 million, but 11 million, or well, I don't want, 100,000, I want 120. Well, fine, I'll give you 120, but then I have to buy a 5-year option, not a 2-year. So the amount of the option, the amount up front, the amount of the eventual purchase price, all those are negotiable things, but it gives me the opportunity then, now I control the farm, even though I don't own the farm. I have the control of that farm, and I can go to the local municipal government and say, hey guys, don't you think that some townhomes would work really good here? Or don't you think a business park would work really good here? And here's my architect, and here's my plan, and here's what I have lined up. And if they say, yes, we like that, great, awesome, I buy the farm. If they say, no, we don't like that, I say, hey Josh, I tried, but I couldn't get it, I'm walking away.
Cost of doing business.
Right. The alternative is I buy Josh's farm for $10 million. Everybody knows it can't be developed. And now I've got to try and sell a $10 million farm for $10 million just to get my money back.
That's right.
So it doesn't work. So that's how options are most commonly used, but there's other ways options can be used too. Let's say I own a piece of real estate. I can say, Josh, I'm going to let you live in my house and rent it. And I'm also going to give you the option to buy it in case over the next 2 years, your credit is cleaned up and you're qualified to buy. And Josh, that'll motivate you to actually get your credit cleaned up. You're close, but you're not quite there. Also, Josh, this gives you a nice normal house in a nice normal neighborhood. You don't have to live in a apartment complex or something like that, or you don't have to live in a row home in the city. Now, the past 5 to 10 years, single family homes and nice neighborhoods have been coming up more and more as rental options. But there was a time when those properties were very few and far between to find as a rental. They're coming up a lot more as rentals now, but there's a lot of people who want to rent those houses. And if they have the option to buy them, they're also going to take great care of it. So it's a way that Josh can get into this property without needing to put a down payment down, a huge down payment down, 20 or 30% at a bank. Or, there's FHA, so that's only, 3.5% down, sure. But then you've got to come up with a stack of paperwork this big, and it's basically bend over while the underwriter does a full cavity examination on your living situation and everything like that.
Well, so that's the flip side of this. What's the advantage to a tenant buyer? And the real reason is, hey, look, I got a 620 credit score right now. I need a 650 to get a decent loan. I've got 10 or 15% to put down on the house. I don't have 20%. And right now with my credit, I need 20% to put down on this property. You know how much it sucks to move?
Yeah.
It's the worst thing in the world. But if you can present this to someone and say, hey, look, you can start as a tenant here. You've got the option to buy. And we're not talking about way down the line in 20 years or 15 or 10 years. We're talking in the next couple of years, and I can help you get that lined up. I've got all the people. You can call this person for credit repair. You can call this person for a mortgage, and they can all work together to put all the pieces together while you're living. While you freedom in this place as if it's your own. Go ahead.
And you get to live there like it's your own. You get to have family over. You get to have friends over. You get to act like a homeowner and treat the place like a homeowner and everything like that. Now, Steve says, do both parties get to determine if the option is exercised? No. In our example right here, Josh is going to rent a house from me. And because he's put a non-refundable option consideration down, he has the option to buy. I do not have the option to sell. If Josh is going to buy that house from me for, let's say, $110,000, and he can qualify in the next 2 years, then I have to sell him the house.
That's right.
So if Josh says, hey, Judah, it's been a year and a half, that loan officer and credit wizard you hooked me up with did wonderful things, and I've been able to keep my job and keep on making payments on everything. I now qualify for a loan. I'm going to buy this house from you. I can't say, hey, sorry, Josh, I'm making good money every month here, and I'm not going to sell it to you anymore, or I'm only going to sell it to you now for $150. No, Josh is protected for the next 2-year period of time that he can buy it from me for a predetermined price.
All right, so this is how. Let's talk about how the seller or the landlord makes money.
Yep.
We touched on this already, but you got the non-refundable option fee, $5,000 to $15,000.
Right.
You've got the monthly rental payment, and you got the sales premium.
Right.
So
I tell him, I say, hey, listen, Josh, the $3,000 to $5,000 or $10,000, $15,000, whatever you're giving me, will be, and we'll get into how that number is specifically arrived at later. I say, hey, Josh, that $15,000 is credited towards the eventual purchase price. Steve asked a question here that I want to take quickly. I just use two years. How do I set the term for my option? Josh, I'm going to get you qualified and get you set in 2 years. And then I say, hey, Josh, by the way, if at the end of that 2 years, you need some more time, we'll work something out. I try to be as vague as possible on that, because what I do at that point is I adjust the purchase price to keep up with whatever the market is. And I charge Josh another $1,000 for the right to extend for another year, which that $1,000 is also credited towards the eventual purchase price. But that's what I do. So anyway, so your non-refundable option consideration is what buys you that 2 years, and that is credited towards the eventual purchase price.
Yep.
Monthly rental payments. So that's the arbitrage every month. Remember when I did my subject 2, I was getting a 30-year fixed mortgage that was including taxes and insurance, whatever I can rent it for. Guys, I'm happy because I really probably didn't spend much to buy that property. I'm happy doing this for $150 to $200 a month. I do not need $300, $500, $700 a month in order for these to be worth my time. I've done these for as little as a negative $20 a month. I was losing $20 every month on the arbitrage, but I got enough money up front. I knew I was going to get enough money when I sold. The other reason this non-refundable option consideration is important is, so let's say I bought the property from Steve Carney, my good friend over here who's blowing up our comments. So I purchased Steve's property from him. He deeded it over to me. If I were to show up at the courthouse with that deed, they would say, Judah, we need a 2% transfer tax. So I don't have that 2% transfer tax. So I sit on that deed for 2 to 3 weeks until Josh pays me the non-refundable option consideration, and then I go and record the deed.
That's
Now
right.
I've done enough of them. I've got the money to float. But the first 2 to 3 to 4 of these I just held on to the deed and didn't record it. Steve could have sold it to that property to somebody else during that window. And then, I mean, there's a technical term for that. It's called fraud. You're not allowed to actually sell the property to 2 different people. But Pennsylvania is a race state, meaning if you sell the deed to if you sell the property to 2 different people, whoever races to the courthouse first and records the deed wins. So yeah. So purchase price is subject to current market value. Sure. So what I do is if it's $100,000 house, I'm hoping that when I bought it from Steve Carney, the motivated seller, I got 3 to 5 to 10% equity. And then what I do is I just bump that up 3 to 5 to 10% when I'm selling it to Josh. Hey, Josh, listen, this is a $100,000 house. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's a $100,000 house all day long. 2 years from now, it'll probably be worth much more than $110,000. I'm going to sell it to you for $110,000. Now, here's the deal, Josh, just so you know. If for whatever reason you can't buy it for $100,000 because the mortgage company does an appraisal and that appraisal says that it's only worth $107,000, we'll work something out.
Yeah.
Did I say that I would drop the price to $107,000? No. What did I say? We'll work something out.
Yeah.
Maybe what will work out is I'll foot the bill for a second appraisal. Maybe what will work out is great, call a different mortgage company. Maybe what will work out is, hey, how about we split the difference? Can you give me $1,500 in cash and I'll take a second mortgage, a silent second for the other $1,500. Maybe if it comes in $3,000 short, I say, you know what, you've been a great tenant, I had more arbitrage on this one, or I got it at a lower price and I'm willing just to walk away and do something. I don't know what will work out. It depends on what happens at that point, but we'll work something out.
Exactly. So what do we look for in a tenant buyer? This is a good question. This is like a very important question, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So first of all, credit profile. I mean, Judah, look, you've got the retail mortgage background. All right. So like credit profile, you want somebody who's almost qualified, and that bar can change. Like
Right.
recently, Steve made a nice comment. Like 680 is the new 580, right?
Right.
I know that there are mortgage brokers out there that are going to tell you that that's not the case, and they can get it done with lower credit scores and things like that. But when in the past,
lending is tighter than it used to be.
That's right.
That's right. 720 is the new 580 is certainly a bit of an exaggeration.
Yeah.
However, it is much tighter. And maybe somebody has good credit, but they don't have a down payment. Maybe somebody has good credit, but they don't have years in job history. Maybe somebody has good credit, but they're a waitress and they don't have, they haven't been showing and verifying their income. And they're working with a loan officer who says, okay, well, guess what? We're going to start paying more in taxes, but we're going to start reporting your income. I have a good friend of mine who runs a screen printing business, and he's been at it for about 8 years. But guess what? The first 2 years, it was a hobby. Years 4 and 5, it became profitable. Years 7 and 8, he was able to walk away from his other job. So, sometimes people are on a track record towards something and they just need some help getting there. And that's who your ideal person is. You're looking for normal people who want to live in a normal house, who are going to put normal wear and tear on it and take generally good care of it. I also tell my tenant buyers, hey, listen, this is our homeowner and training program, Josh. I look at you as a homeowner in training. So, Josh, you've probably maybe never owned a home before, or you might not know this, but like, if the washer and dryer starts acting funny, that's on you, dude. Yeah. If your son breaks a window, that's on you, dude. Listen, if anything more than $5,000 comes up as a repair item, give me a call and we'll work something out. But if it's under $5,000, that's going to be on you, dude. So I had a tenant. Hold on, let me just say this real quickly. So this is a funny, quick little story. I had a tenant one time who told me, hey, Judah, I know that you said that any repairs were on us. And I said, yep. Well, the hot water heater broke. That can be repaired and installed, a new one. It's an electric hot water heater. I can get it installed for $800. Does that sound like a fair price to get a hot water heater installed for? Yep. Okay, great. Well, we can't float the $800. Can you pay for this? We'll send you the bill. You pay for it. We'll pay you an extra $400 this month and an extra $400 next month. Does that sound like a good solution? Yep. All I had to do was say yep 3 times on the phone to him, and it was taken care of. Now, if it was a normal rental and my hot water heater would have broke, I would have had to replace it anyway. If they're a tenant buyer, if they would have flaked out halfway through our payment arrangement, I would have been out $400, but I was $400 to the good where I would have been anyway. You're looking for people who that situation more than likely will happen for. Does that make sense? When I interview people, if I say, hey, tell me about your situation, and they describe their situation and why their ex-wife made them a victim, why their boss made them a victim, why their kids, has victimized them, why society's against them, why, all this other stuff, why all this unfortunate stuff has happened to them and none of it's their fault, not interested.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're looking for good people who bad stuff has happened to, and you can tell are looking to turn their life around and do something different. Sorry, I'm preaching. Go ahead, Josh.
No, you're good. I was actually going to make that same point. So when I was talking about credit profile, right? I've had 2 instances in the last 2 weeks that came up in conversations with borrowers where they didn't have great credit. One of them, their brother, they co-signed on their brother's primary residence, and his house went to foreclosure and was taken back by the bank. Just so you know, everybody out there in Facebook land and everywhere else, co-signing means co-borrower.
Right.
It means you are just as liable as that person that you are signing for. It doesn't mean, hey, we're just going to strengthen this. It means if they miss a payment, it's going on your credit.
The other thing that's very important is should Mr. and Mrs. Weidman ever get divorced, God forbid, and don't get divorced, Josh, by the way, it sucks. Should that ever happen, if the divorce court says, hey, Josh, this credit card is hers, this car loan is yours, that may work for divorce court, but for credit court, as far as credit court is concerned, it's still in both of your names.
That's right.
So if you are going through a divorce and you are fighting mad about everything, you need to split up that debt and say, by the way, before you miss a payment, let me make that payment. I'll be mad. I'll be upset. I'll find another way to take it out on you. But I won't miss a payment without telling you. Please don't you miss a payment without telling me. And until all debt is finalized and paid off and refinanced or whatever else in a divorce thing, you need to save as much extra money as possible so that if your ex calls you up and says, I need $500 for the credit card, you can send it to them, because otherwise it will jack your credit up.
It is the same situation when you are the seller / landlord.
Yeah.
My very first, I was telling Judah this before we jumped on the show. My very first property management client rented out all of his houses rent to own, and he didn't do it well. They were in C and D class neighborhoods, and he would do the least amount of repairs that he could to get a tenant buyer into the property.
Right.
And no matter when it happened, the day they signed that option and they moved in, if anything broke, it was on them.
Right.
And so I have multiple examples of this, but the number one example is a woman moved into the property. She had 3 kids. She was a single mom. She paid her rent every single month. We took over management like 4 or 5 years into this option agreement, and she called me about a leak in the shower. Well, I called the owner. He says, listen, that's on her. Called her back, let her know. The next month, we didn't get a rent. I'm going, what's going on with the rent? Called her, went to the property, and the door to the house is wide open and no one lives there anymore. After walking through the house, come to find out, a tile, probably years before, fell off of the inside of the shower. The tile was one of those white, 4x4 tiles that are like 59 cents a piece.
Right.
It fell off. Water from the shower got into the tub surround. Now there's 15 or 20 tiles falling off the wall. All of the walls on the second floor are permeated with moisture, and it's leaked down onto the first floor, ruined the hardwood floor. I mean, there was $25,000 or $30,000 worth of damage in this house, and it was maybe $100 fix.
Right.
If you're paying somebody to just drive out there, make sure you have the tenants call you,
Right.
and just let you know, and you can present it like, hey, listen, I have a lot of contractors that I work with.
Right.
It's likely that my costs are going to be less than your costs. So
Right.
if you do a repair, give me a call. You can pay the contractor, but at least you know what's going on with the property.
Yeah, I've had similar experiences with sinks leaking under, stuff leaking under the sink. And so I always tell tenant buyers, listen, do not let a 50-cent problem become a $5,000 problem. If you're tight because you paid Christmas bills, we'll work something out. I'm probably not going to be happy. I'm probably not going to like it, but I would much rather work something out with you than cause other damage. The other thing the other way that this comes up, this is just for free. Because I manage about 4,000 units across 4 states for about 100,000 different owners. New owners say to me all the time, they read this on YouTube, or there's some guru out there teaching people this, that, oh, well, any repair, the tenant should pay the first $50 up. Yeah. Worst idea ever. Because all that means is the tenants don't call about any repair ever. So you just, listen, I get it. Repairs are difficult. Repairs are a problem. And some tenants sometimes look to complain about everything. And so the bright idea fairy came and visited somebody, and the bright idea fairy said, well, landlord should just charge $50 for any maintenance, and that'll keep, those bad tenants from doing that. Just don't do that. Don't go down that road. Let me answer something here, and then we'll kind of wrap up for the day, because we'll save the rest of this content for tomorrow. Is debt to income ratio affected by co-borrowing? Not usually. And here's what has to happen. If I co-sign, let's say Josh is my brother and I co-sign on a loan for him, and then I go to get a mortgage, that loan officer who does the loan, as long as I can get a letter of explanation signed by Josh that he's making the payments, and I can get sometimes 3, sometimes 6, sometimes 12 payments from Josh. So Josh is the one paying it, either canceled checks or screenshots coming out of Josh's bank, or however you want to do it, showing that it's coming out of his, thing, not mine. That they can usually back that out for most lending purposes, as long as it's on time. If Josh is paying it all janked up, and therefore they know that it's going to start, coming back when it affected my credit, and I might ultimately wind up being liable for it, then that's not going to happen. Just like you can back out car loans. If a car loan has less than 10 payments on it, sometimes you can back that out as well. So there's a number of things that can be backed out of a debt to income ratio. Usually, sometimes, in most cases. It doesn't say anywhere in the New or Old Testament that debt to income ratios can be backed out as long as you can prove that somebody else is paying it. Therefore, it is not the gospel truth. But usually, that's how it goes.
That's right. So we're gonna stop here today. Tomorrow, we're gonna get into how do you find these tenant buyers? How do you screen them and make sure that they're qualified and are going to be good? And what kind of paperwork do we need to put together? And what's it look like? What should it include? All that kind of stuff.
And also, what does that first conversation go through? We kind of touched on it a little bit, but when Josh calls me, ring, I answer the phone. How do I explain to him what a rent to own is and how our situation works and things like that? So we're going to drive down and drill down more into nuts and bolts tomorrow. You definitely want to be here tomorrow. Got a lot of great questions today. I'm sure we're going to get a lot more great questions that we will try to clarify in the content tomorrow. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and let us know.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. You have a great day. We'll see you back here tomorrow at noon. If you liked what you saw today, make sure you like and share the video, and we'll be right back here tomorrow. Take care.
See everybody.